So we have 2 weeks remaining. The last week will be for the project, and we have the criteria for the project already. It will be time to either finish up labs or work on the project next week. This week will be labs. So there's, remind you that we posted the list of things that are supposed to be in your project. And if you really want to do something that doesn't fit this list, then we can negotiate. All right. So let me ask if there are any questions or go on to some new stuff. Do new stuff without trying to keep it easy for the end, but also keep showing you some new things. So it's just a little bit of a hodgepodge. I'm going to show you how to do an autocomplete. So it's sort of like an edit text, but as the person is typing, you are giving suggestions from some array. And then also how to compare what they're typing to a regular expression. And then I'll draw some shapes for something completely different. Okay. Main activity, set up a hello world here. Start over. And then do make activity. Everything. Package. Paste everything. Okay. So in this case, there are two things to enter. One of them is the name of a color. So if you start typing something, it will give you things that start that way. So I started with a C, and it will give me colors that begin with C. I'll choose chartreuse, and then that is chartreuse. Down here, it wants me to enter a hex code, and I start typing the hex code. And it's gray right now to say that I don't have a proper hex code. And I'm doing the 6-digit version. I didn't go fancy enough to do the 3 or the 6-digit version, but that's not too hard. But in hex, I have 0 to 9 and then A to F. So I can type D is allowed, and I need 6 of them before it's okay. D, 2, 4, 9, B, C. When I get to a proper hex code, it turns green. And then if I hit enter, then I get the color I just made. So just some different types of entering data. And let's have a look. So this is the layout. This is my start versus left problem that I have, but start is the new and left is the old, and I probably have some going back to some old version that uses left. But anyway, here's my text view that just says enter a color name. And then I'm having an autocomplete text view. So that was, if I was in design, that was one of the texts, autocomplete text view. And constrain it as normal and give it an ID and all the usable stuff. And then here's another, here's the text view that is just for displaying the color. So I just use the text view to display the color. Here's another text view to prompt the user to enter the hex code. And here I have just a regular old edit text. And then down here, I have another text view to display the second color. Okay. So then I went out to the internet and found two arrays for me to use. One was an array of color names, and then I wanted the Android was not recognizing all these color names. These are all the color names that the web recognizes, and Android wasn't recognizing this full list. So I got a parallel array of the hex codes. So these are the hex codes. So this is a parallel array corresponding to this color array. So I just found that information on the internet, and this is my hex code pattern. I'll come back to that. But the first one uses this array, and then the response sometimes uses also this array. So let's look at that. So the usual here is connecting to the interface. So I'm connecting I called it the ACTV, the autocomplete text view. I don't know why they don't call it an autocomplete edit text, because you can edit in a way, but they don't. So my prefix is based on what they call it, not on what I would call it. And here's the text color to display the color, and here's the edit text for the hex code, and here's the text view to display the second color. Okay. So an autocomplete is like a spinner in that it's giving you options. Not exactly the same as a spinner, but it's sort of like a spinner. And so there's an array adapter. So I established the AA, array adapter, for the color names. And this is the usual stuff for the array adapter. A context, hopefully you can get away with this. A sort of some kind of style for displaying things. I'm using the simple spinner item, and then the array. And you remember way back when we did spinners that there is like a resource array version that we could have used as well. So I could have put these arrays in over here in values in my string resources. So it's a little bit different here. It's set adapter, but establish an adapter and set up the adapter for your autocomplete text view. And then the threshold is how much do they type before you start making suggestions. And so there's like a default, or you can say, I'm not going to help you until you type 3 letters or something. So that's what that. So as soon as they type 1, I should start offering suggestions. So as soon as I type F, I get color names in my list that begin with F. So Firebird. So the adapter is connecting. The adapter relates to my array, and then I use the adapter to associate with my autocomplete text view, and I set the threshold. How many things do I have to type before it does it for me? Then I have a set on item click listener. Sort of, this is sort of a version of, like, now you remember when we had spinners that the thing had two things. There were two things you could change, or two methods you were responsible for with your listener. This is slightly different. There's only one. And so when you choose something, what are you going to do? So I toast it out. So I toast out, and here is the text to the string. So I'm toasting out the name of the color from what they chose. The I is useful here in that so here I am, and I typed a G, and then I will pick one. And if I were to pick this gray, it would be, Gainsborough would be 0, Ghost White 1, Gold 2, Goldenrod 3, gray would tell me 4 if I asked for the I. So the I is not the position in my original array, it's the position in this sort of shortened autocomplete thingy. So I didn't find that as useful as what I get out of spinners. So, okay. But I did have access to the color. Okay. So sometimes some of the color names are understood by Android. And so I could say, here's my text view. I could set the background color. I could use the color class. It has a method parse color, and I could use that name. And if it was sort of a simple color like red, that would work. But it didn't recognize this big list of colors. It didn't recognize. Didn't recognize all of them. So I did it. I worked with a try catch, and I said if this was failing, if just using the color name was failing, then I decided to use index of. That's finding in the original array of color names. It's finding the particular color that they chose. And again, I wasn't doing it for me. I was giving me the position in the shortened list, and I wanted the position in the long list. But once I had the position in the long list, then I could set the background color based on the hex codes at that position. So it understood all the hex codes, because that's just a calculation, whereas it didn't understand all of the names. But it understood some of the names. So parse color can work with a name if it understands the name, or a hex code. So that was the autocomplete. So the autocomplete is kind of a mix of an EditText and a spinner. There are similarities and maybe a little bit of differences. Okay. Now the hex code, I want to go back up here. I declared a pattern I called the hex underscore pattern, which was a regular expression. That's what regex means. And I'll at least explain this one regular expression, and then you have to do another one in lab, which is pretty easy. You could base it on this, or there's another way to do it. So I'm looking for a pattern. I'm not looking for a specific string. I'm looking for my string to have a particular pattern. So this caret thing says it must start. So I must find my pattern at the beginning. So usually it looks for a pattern anywhere in the string that you're comparing it to, but the caret says, I better find my pattern up front. The pound sign, you call it a hashtag, I call it a pound sign, is just a pound sign. I should see a pound sign. There are certain special characters in regular expressions. Pound is not one of them. So the pound is just literally a pound. The square brackets is a special thing. Screwed up. Undo. Okay. So the square bracket is defining a set of things. And I am saying I want hexadecimal numbers. So I said hexadecimal numbers are the digits 0 to 9 and the letters A to F. And some people might put them in capitals and some people might put them in small. So I said I want 0 to 9, A to F, and little a to little f. So that is the set of things I'm pulling from in that square brackets. And then here in with the curly brackets, I am saying I want 6 of them. If you remember, I have some code. I haven't shown you this code yet. But if I don't have a match, it's gray. And then when I have a match, it is green. And if I go too far, it goes gray again. And that's also because I have the dollar sign, this last thing. The dollar sign is the sort of mate of the caret at the beginning. The caret says you must, if you see a caret in the middle of a regular expression, it means something else. But if you see a caret at the beginning, that says you must find your pattern at the beginning of your string. And the dollar sign at the end means that I must find my pattern at the end of my string. So I'm not looking for this with between the caret and the dollar sign. That means that I am looking for this pattern to be the whole thing. So I must find my pattern at the beginning, it must match at the beginning, and it must match at the end, so it must be the whole thing. I have a weird question for myself now. I put it in twice, it didn't match. That was my question to myself. If I sort of had a match at the beginning and at the end, if I had 2 matches, would it match? And it does not. Okay, good. It's doing what I want. All right, so that is my pattern. And here is my my usual text change listener. I'm doing nothing before, I'm doing nothing after. I'm sorry, I'm doing nothing after, I'm doing nothing before. While they type, I said, if my pattern matches what they've entered, so on text change, S is the character sequence, the letters they typed. And so if my pattern matches what they've typed, I'm making the background color of the edit text green to say go, it's a good match. And otherwise, I'm making it gray. So that is, does the pattern match what they typed? So that is, and this was a new event that I added. And I said, I don't want to add a button for them to click a button. I just want them to hit enter. I don't know why, I was just in that kind of a mood last night. So I decided to add a key listener. It's a different event for typing in a box. And it pulls out the key code. So it is telling, so V is what you're typing in, V is usually the view. The key code is what key are you typing, and then the event will be sort of, is your mouse going is your key going down? Is your key going up? And so this was all, if the pattern matches, so the first if is if the key code was, if they hit an enter, and I copied this from somebody, and I think they chose the event to be up. If the key was coming up, and it was an enter key, and if the hex code matches, then I'm going to change the color of my text view color. And we needed a true and we needed a false here. So that's not a particular. So this on key listener here wants to return something, and it wants to know, I'm supposed to do stuff if they type enter, but I don't really want the enter character in the box. So if it's not an enter key, this false means just sort of like keep the letter in the box or keep the character in the box. Whereas this says, you know, sort of like cancel, like do some other response to what they type, but don't add that character of a return to the character string. So that's this idea. And you could have other key codes. You could, you know, what if they typed an M, or it could be any number of things. Enter sort of a standard. So that is a regular expression and an autocomplete question. All right, so next. Next example is some shape stuff. So in the layout, I have some things logo view and logo to view, and these are things that I made up. So when I copy this in at first, it's going to say, I don't know what you're talking about. It's saying, I don't know what you're talking about. What's logo view? What's logo to view? And those things are defined in code, and they are other classes. So in order to get the package part right, I'm going to like make the new classes and then copy the code in from the classes. So I'm going to make up here a new Kotlin class called logo view. And I'm going to make another one called logo to view. Okay. And then let me open those up. And here is logo, everything but the package. Everything but the package. And same thing for logo 2. Everything but the package. And then there was like nothing on main activity. Pretty much just nothing here, because I'm just showing you pretty pictures. But this old main activity refers to things that are no longer in the layout. Okay. So run this guy. Run this guy. Why did it die? Line 9. Activity main. Build. Why is it not there here now? Why is it not recognizing? This way. So I now have a log. Have a logo view. Understood my logo view here. Let's make it 200 VP. Better to have the class first, obviously. I should have copied the classes first. And I want the rest of this. There's the usual start thing it doesn't like. Okay. It's not understanding it after the fact. Here's my logo 2. This thing had an ID. What's it called? Logo. Complain about starts, but I think that works. Let me see if it will run now. You're supposed to make the classes before you add it to the layout. So I was unhappy with my reversing the order. There's my wonderful drawing. Okay. So let's look at, there was nothing in main activity. In activity main, there is a reference to these views that I've now created. And it wants that to be done second, so I got the order wrong. So now let's look at logo view. So what is the code? So first of all, I start off with this big complicated mess. My class extends view. So I was following this video, got a bit of an accent, but it was understandable. And you start off extending the view class because you want to make something that can be seen. So it's the things that can be seen are views. And then one of those little red question marks came up, and it said one of the options was to do this JVM overloads. And so that sort of added all this other stuff. So instead of class logo view, I started class logo view : view, and then I had to like alt enter and bring in import the view stuff. And then it was still complaining, but it also told me what to do. And also this guy told me what to do, and it was this JVM overloads thing. So that got me this far. And then we instantiate a paint. And so this draw, when we write the draw, it creates for us a canvas. So we have to override the draw function. We want to say, when we draw this view, what do we want? And so it gives you a canvas. So canvas was given to me as part of onDraw, but I'm making a sort of a paint. What am I going to make? How am I going to paint this canvas? You can work with numbers. I decided to do some work with the, to sort of fill my canvas. So I was working here with the canvas height and width. And this was really annoying in that some of the things were doubles and other things were floats, and I had to keep casting back and forth. And that's what all this like divided by 2f is. So here I'm setting my color to red. So this is that like Target kind of logo. I'm making the big circle. So the biggest outer circle, and I'm setting the color to red. And then I'm drawing a circle. This is the big, so I took the half of the width and half of the height to put it in the center as my center X and center Y. And then for the outer circle, I made the radius half of the width, and then I painted it. So that is the big red circle. And it was by default filled in. I'll show you later how you can get it to be just the stroke, not filled in. But by default, it was filled in. And then I made, this is just repetitive, I changed my color to white and made another circle with the same center, same CX and same CY, but now I have 2/3 of the radius. And then I set my color back to red and drew another circle with the same center X and center Y, and this time 1/3 of the width of the circle. Sorry, well, here's the original width of the circle, which was half the canvas, and then it was, this was 2/3 of that. So there's this fraction and that fraction. And they all had to have this annoying little F on there or it yelled at me. And there's always this last thing of paint. Now I could define paint 1 being red and paint 2 being white and not be switching back and forth. So there, you can have more than one paint, I believe. I didn't do it that way, but I believe that is possible. So that was my target logo. I gave it in activity main, I gave it a margin. That's why it's not at the edge. That's why it's a little bit down and a little bit over, because that I controlled in the layout, not in the code, not in the copy. So that was changing colors and drawing circles. Another annoying feature is it says, well, there might not be a canvas. So it's all this, it could be null. And so I might not have put it into my layout or something like that. So it has this question mark on everything, so that, you know, that says, do this if it's not null. If there is a canvas, draw a red circle. If there's not a canvas, then don't. Okay. That was logo view. Let's look at logo view 2. I just show you some other type of things. So it's all the same setup. Bring in context, bring in graphics, view. All this setup was the same. I got the width and the height. I switched my color to blue. I'm going to draw lines, and so the lines have a stroke width. If you don't set the stroke width, you have a line, but it's very thin. So I made it 20, and most of these numbers are supposed to be floats. So if you do some calculation, you throw an F into your calculation. If you're just giving it a number, put an F after the number to say this is a float. It insisted I have these ifs again, even though I had the question marks about the canvas. It also made me have these ifs to make sure that the canvas height and the canvas width were not null. So just as I was working, this little red thing popped up and said, do you want me to make sure that it's not null? And I said, yes, please. And so it added these ifs. I did not. But it was some little red thing popped up. I moused over the red thing and it said, here's how to fix it. And I said, thanks very much. So I'm drawing a line from 0, 0, which is the, what is that? The upper left. And then that's my first, I'm starting on the left and at the top. And then I'm drawing the line over to the width times 1. I had to convert it to a float, so times 1F. And so that's the right side. And then the Y was the canvas height times 1, so that was the bottom. And I used the paint, which was now blue with a stroke of 20. I drew another line which started on the left but at the bottom, and then went over to the right but at the top, and also made it blue. So that's the big X. This was the first line, that was the second line. Here I'm changing the style to stroke. Lines are automatically stroke, but if I have a circle or a rectangle or something like that, it's by default will fill in, and I didn't want it to fill in. So I changed the paint style to the stroke style, and then I made a rectangle, and I decided to go to start at my upper, this is the left, upper left corner, and I put it at 25% of the width and 25% of the height. And I made the bottom right 0.75% of the width and 0.75% of the height, and painted it in blue. So that was my, in general, it's a rectangle. I use the same width and height. This is based on whatever was the person makes. So over here, when I set it up as a square. And so when 25% to basically 50% of my width and 50% of my height are equal because I gave them the same width and height. So that was that. Now, you can also work with just numbers. So down here, this was me adding some text. So my stroke width was too big, so I changed it from 20 to 10. I set font size or text size to 200, and then I said hello, at a given X and a given Y. I didn't do any calculating here. I just put in numbers and changed the numbers till I liked it. And you can see the hello is empty, that I'm not filling. Because when I change to the stroke style, I'm only outlining things. And that also applied to the letters. So that's how I got this sort of empty white letters, you know, because it's just, here's the stroke around the letter H. If I wanted that filled in, I could change the style back to fill or have a different paint, one or the other. So this was some text. And then I made a path. And you say, you move to, you say where you want the path to start. And then you make a line from that point to the next point and to the next point, and then close the path and then draw the path. And that was this little baby triangle. Okay. So, and there are other things if you want to play around. There are arcs, there are ovals. There are rounded squares, there are rounded rectangles, there are ovals, there are arcs. So you can have fun, or you have to make some kind of logo. So the lab is just, you know, the hodgepodge of things I just showed you. So you're going to make a class and extends view like that we just saw, and you're going to make some kind of logo. Throw, you know, choose a color, throw a shape or two down, draw a line or a circle or a square, or write your name or something, make some kind of logo and add it to your layout. And then under that, so that's not going to take up the whole screen. So your logo shouldn't take up the whole screen. You're going to do an autocomplete where the person's going to enter a state. So down here, I gave you some array. This was like a JavaScript array, so it may not be in the right syntax for Kotlin, but I wanted to save you some typing. So the person's supposed to enter a state, and here is the array, and it's also got some of the territories, I think, in here. And then another box where they're going to enter a 5-digit zip code, and I want you to use the regular expression stuff there. So check that they have, that what they enter has 5 digits. So you can adapt what I gave you for the hex code. My hex code had 6 things. Yours is going to have 5. Your hex code, you're just going to have digits. You're not going to have the A through F. So you should be able to use what I have. There are other ways to express a 5-digit zip code using a regular expression. There's a \D, which stands for digits, but you can use square brackets 0 through 9, like I did for my hex codes. So if you know other ways to write regular expressions, feel free to use them, but you ought to be able to write a regular expression based on the one I gave you.
So we don't have to have like an area of zip code.
We're just doing strict 5-digit,
Okay.
and we don't have to worry about like if certain numbers don't occur. We're not worried about that. It's just a simple pattern. Let's keep it simple. You know, if you look them up, regular expressions, people go like nuts. Like, you know, oh, if it starts with a 3, the second digit can't be a 5. And it's like, I'm not looking for that. I'm just saying, is it 5 digits or is it not 5 digits? Just simplest pattern matching. Now you should have like the caret and the dollar sign, so it's not, they shouldn't be able to enter 13 digits and 5 digits happen to be in there. Anything else? And 5, I want you to use regular expressions because I want you to have seen regular expressions. You could probably work with a numeric edit text and check it's the length of the string to make sure it's 5, but don't do that. Use the regular expression so that you've worked once in your life with regular expressions. All right, so that is what I want you to do. Be, I hope, relatively straightforward, mostly a copy and a slight adaptation of what I have already shown you. All right. Questions before I stop recording?